It started with a sock. Not mine. Not hers. A thick, gray, obviously male sock curled up behind the laundry machine, like a filthy secret shoved behind domestic noise. Now, we don't have guests. No brothers, no guy friends staying over, no sons old enough to wear a men's size 12. I stood there, holding it between my fingers like I'd just found a used condom in my own bed, but I didn't flinch. I just stared at it while the machine hummed, pretending it hadn't just spat out a confession in cotton blend. She came down moments later in a rush, kissed my cheek, and went straight for the dryer. And that's when it hit me, she didn't ask what I was doing there, in that awkward corner behind the washer. She didn't even glance at the sock I was holding. A woman who once interrogated me over a single missing Tupperware lid didn't notice a foreign object in our sacred fortress of detergent and fabric softener. That was the first break, the hairline fracture across the glass. I smiled as I slipped the sock into my back pocket, still warm from the machine, like a keepsake from a ghost. I didn't confront her. I didn't scream. That's not how you win. No, I became something else. Still. Silent. Focused. I started watching her the way a man watches a ticking clock he knows is off by just enough to be dangerous. Patterns emerged. Her workouts got longer, but her clothes came back too fresh. Her favorite perfume ran out faster, but she didn't wear it around me. She changed her phone password but left her Pinterest open, filled now with pins about how to move on and healing from a broken marriage. But we never had a fight. We hadn't even disagreed on dinner in weeks. The real punch came 2 days later when our son, 8 years old and obsessed with Hot Wheels, came to me with something cool he found in the backseat of the car. It was a necklace. Silver chain, thick, masculine. A cross pendant. Not mine. Not hers. But definitely not something an 8-year-old would find cool unless he'd been told it belonged to someone important. I asked him where he found it. Behind Mommy's seat, he said, casual, like he'd found a quarter. I turned it over in my hand, pretending to admire it. There was an engraving. To Jay with all my love. S. Simple. Intimate. Damning. I smiled and told him it was a surprise gift, and to keep it between us for now. He nodded, thrilled to be in on a secret with Dad. Meanwhile, my wife was upstairs, humming in the shower, probably scrubbing herself clean of someone else's touch, thinking she'd gotten away with it again. I slipped the necklace into a drawer in the garage. Not hidden. Just placed, where the right person might eventually find it. I'm not a violent man, but I do believe in consequences. And there's nothing more painful for a woman like her than watching the illusion of her perfect motherhood fracture from the inside. I didn't rage. I didn't accuse. I just watched. Waited. Let the cracks widen. I started noting down everything, not just for evidence, but for precision. Timing. Her stories. Her outfits. The missing hours. I took back control, one quiet move at a time. And she never noticed. Because she was too busy lying. Too busy falling deeper into her own fantasy. The house didn't change. The dinners were the same. I kissed her goodnight, tucked our son in, and mowed the lawn on Sundays. But under the surface, I was setting fire to the foundation. Because I wasn't planning to expose her in court. I wasn't interested in apologies. I was waiting for the right moment, for the perfect time to let the person she claimed to love most hold the truth in his hands. The kind of truth that doesn't come from angry fathers or suspicious husbands, but from the innocent voice of a child, asking, Mom, who's Jay? That was the storm I was preparing for. And she didn't hear a thing. We used to move and sync, like gears in a well-oiled machine, humming through the rhythm of marriage with practiced ease. I made coffee every morning at 6:15, black for me, oat milk and cinnamon for her. She always left the spoon in the cup. I always took it out. That was us. Little details, tiny contrasts, but together they made something whole. She used to laugh at my predictable habits, call me her walking schedule. I wore that nickname like a badge of honor. Predictable meant reliable. Reliable meant safe. And for a long time, I truly thought she felt safe with me. But then things started slipping, not big things, not at first. Just the details. She stopped leaving the spoon. One morning I noticed the coffee I made her was untouched. I asked if everything was okay, and she said she was just trying new things. That phrase stuck with me. Trying new things. At first, I assumed she meant yoga or journaling, or that god-awful kale smoothie she tried once and dumped into the sink. But new things took on a stranger shape. One Thursday, she came home with a fresh haircut, shorter, layered, something edgy that didn't match her usual look. I complimented it. She thanked me, but her eyes were somewhere else, like she was listening for an echo I couldn't hear. Then came the perfume. Not her scent. She had worn the same floral vanilla blend for years, the kind that made our bedsheets smell like spring. But this new one? It was musky, bold, aggressive, almost. I asked if it was a gift. She said she bought it herself, said she wanted to feel more empowered. I smiled, nodded, told her she smelled incredible. And she did. But not for me. I started noticing how she lingered longer in front of the mirror, how she checked her phone in the bathroom and took it with her into the closet. Her messages were now filled with cryptic emojis, half-finished phrases, and names I didn't recognize. S, K, initials with no meaning to me. She used to laugh with her whole body, shoulders shaking, eyes squinting. Now, when she laughed, it was softer, more restrained, like something she didn't want me to hear. And her phone, once left on the kitchen counter without a thought, now stayed glued to her hand like an extension of her wrist. When I asked if something was wrong, she sighed, not annoyed, not angry, just distant. She said she was going through a phase, that she needed space to figure herself out. She started staying out later. At first, it was book clubs, or so she claimed. Then self-discovery meetups, whatever the hell those were. I offered to join her once, just to see what it was all about, and she froze, her mouth forming a tight smile that didn't touch her eyes. It's kind of private, she said. I need this for me. I told myself I trusted her, that I had to trust her. That's what marriage was, right? Trust, even when you're unsure. I told myself she was just chasing growth. Maybe she was bored. Maybe she was trying to reinvent herself now that our son was older, more independent. But there were nights she came home glowing, skin flushed, hair messy, eyes too alive for someone who just sat around reading personal development books. Once, I asked if she wanted to plan a weekend getaway. Just the two of us. Her face dimmed like a light switch flicked off. That sounds exhausting, she said, brushing past me to put her gym bag away. She started talking about boundaries, about needing to separate identities. She said we were too merged, too dependent, that she couldn't breathe. I listened, nodded, told her I supported her. But inside, I felt something start to shift. I used to know her rhythms, when she was sad, when she was angry, when she needed space. But now, it felt like I was sharing my house with a stranger wearing her face. She stopped asking about my day. Conversations turned into exchanges of logistics, our son's school, groceries, bills. Nothing real. Nothing human. The last straw, the moment the world tilted ever so slightly, came on a Saturday afternoon. She was in the driveway, cleaning out her car. Our son was playing with chalk on the sidewalk. I walked out with a drink, casually offered it to her. She barely acknowledged me. But as I leaned into the passenger side, I saw something strange wedged between the seat and the center console. A receipt from a hotel 2 towns over. Room 307. Dated last Thursday. 2 guests. No explanation. No reason for her to be there. She hadn't mentioned any conferences, no spa days, nothing. I looked at her, standing just 10 feet away, singing softly to herself as she wiped the windshield. I didn't say a word. I smiled, handed her the drink, kissed her cheek. She smiled back, absent, rehearsed. The cracks were there now. Visible. Spreading. She still lived here. She still played the role. But I knew somewhere beyond the daily smiles and passive affection she was already gone. And I was just a man watching the curtain rise on a play where he wasn't cast in the second act. It was a Wednesday, ordinary, unremarkable, the kind of day where nothing should go wrong. I came home early from work, not for any special reason, just a quiet urge to be home. I stepped inside, kicked off my shoes, and the house felt paused. Not empty, just paused. Like a scene held between frames, waiting for something to resume. There was music playing faintly upstairs, something slow and sultry, nothing she'd usually listen to during her yoga time. I didn't call out. I didn't make noise. I just walked slowly, every step deliberate, soft against the hardwood stairs. Her voice filtered down before I reached the landing, low, laughing, intimate. Not the way she spoke to me. It was a different register, breathier, coy. I moved to the edge of the hallway, stopped just short of our bedroom door. It was cracked open, enough to see the full-length mirror on the opposite wall. She was standing there, back to the door, wearing nothing but a towel and heels. Heels. Not the slip-ons she wore around the house. Not the flats she kept by the bed. Black heels. And she was holding her phone, angled slightly, her body tilted just enough for the camera to catch the curve of her thigh. Like this, she said, giggling. You're such a perv. Silence. Then her voice again, softer this time. No, he's not home. I told you Wednesdays are safe. My heart didn't race. It stopped. Not in panic. No, that would be too human. It just froze, like someone flipped a switch inside me and shut everything off except my hearing and sight. She twirled slowly, still holding the phone up, pouting at the screen. You like when I wear these, right? She said, lifting one leg slightly. He never notices anything. She laughed at her own words. I watched her in the mirror, her face glowing, vibrant, alive in a way she never was with me anymore. And then she turned toward the closet, revealing her chest to the phone camera, and I saw it, the necklace. The same silver chain with the cross. Jay got this for me, she said into the phone. Told me it was a sin to wear it with nothing else on. Her voice was a whisper now. Guess I'm going to hell? And then she blew a kiss at the screen. That was it. That was the moment. The crack became a canyon. The illusion wasn't just broken, it was obliterated. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a one-night lapse. This was a performance. A routine. I backed away slowly, one step at a time, my breath steady, controlled. I went downstairs, sat on the couch, and stared at the blank TV screen like it was the face of a judge. My hands didn't tremble. My jaw didn't clench. I simply stopped being a husband. Whatever I was 5 minutes ago had died in that hallway, buried in the echo of her laughter. She didn't even know. She thought I was still at work. She thought she had time. She thought I was blind. But I saw everything. I saw who she really was, unfiltered, unashamed, utterly herself. And I understood. This wasn't just betrayal. It was erasure. She had rewritten me out of her life while I was still living in the same house. I wasn't part of her story anymore. I was background noise, the man who paid the bills while she dressed up for someone else. I didn't rage. I didn't cry. I just sat there, watching the dead reflection of the screen, counting the seconds until I could move again without losing the calm that now wrapped around me like armor. That's the moment I decided. I wasn't going to confront her. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to burn her world down with the same cold silence she gave me. She would never see the fire until she was already inside it. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was restless, but because my mind had finally found purpose. I lay beside her as she scrolled through her phone, probably sending goodnight texts to someone who wasn't her husband, while my own thoughts moved like ice-cold current beneath calm waters. I stopped thinking like a betrayed man and started thinking like a tactician. She was predictable, self-assured, sloppy, addicted to secrecy she thought she controlled. That made her vulnerable. I didn't confront her. I didn't touch her. I just waited until she drifted off, that little soft snore rising from her throat, then slipped out of bed and got to work. Her laptop was password protected, but she always underestimated me, used the dog's birthday, like she always did for everything. 10 seconds and I was in. I didn't even go for her email or messages. That would be too obvious. I went to her calendar. There, color-coded in pink, were self-care sessions every Thursday. Vague, recurring, private. I took a photo of the pattern with my own phone and backed out. The next morning, I said nothing. I poured her coffee like always. Told her she looked beautiful. Kissed her goodbye. That afternoon, while she was supposedly in a meditation workshop, I sent a package to her office, flowers, with a note saying thanks for last night. You were incredible. I signed it simply, Jay. Then I waited. She came home smiling, humming like she'd won something. I asked how the workshop was. She paused, half a second too long, and said it was transformative. That was her word of the month. I nodded. Good. I'm glad. The next morning, I checked her phone back up on the cloud. She deleted the texts, of course, but not the photos. One image. A blurry mirror selfie in lingerie I'd never seen before, timestamped during her workshop. I didn't react. I went to work. Called in a favor from a guy in security I knew from years ago. I didn't ask him to tail her. I asked him to tail her best friend. The one she always claimed was single and sad, who she suddenly started hanging out with every weekend. In 3 days, I had photos of them meeting a man at a hotel parking lot, laughing, hugging, disappearing together through a side entrance. The friend was the decoy. Smart move. Amateur execution. I started planning questions. Casual. Innocent. How's Marissa doing? Still on those dating apps? I asked over dinner. She nodded too quickly. Yep, still swiping away. Except I had screenshots of Marissa walking hand in hand with her lover while my wife waited inside the car, staring at her phone. I dug deeper. Our joint bank account had a few transactions I never noticed, payments to a spa that didn't exist on Google Maps. Turns out, it was a cash-only front for a private room rental agency. Weekly charges. Same day. Same hour. Every time I thought she was crying in the woods about her trauma, she was probably on her back in a dimly lit rented room. I called the number from a burner phone, asked to book the Thursday 3 p.m. private suite. The man on the other end said, "Sorry, that one's always taken by a regular." I smiled. Of course it is. I started collecting everything. Photos, bank records, chat logs pulled from our family iPad when she forgot to log out. I built a folder, labeled Truth. I kept it hidden in plain sight, buried inside an old work USB marked Taxes 2020, knowing she'd never look twice. I wasn't just watching her now. I was studying her. She'd grown bolder, started slipping in the way all liars eventually do. One night, I complimented her on her perfume, the one I knew she only wore for him. She smiled and said, "I haven't worn that in weeks." I nodded, made a note. Another night, she left the house wearing flats, said she was just meeting Marissa for coffee, but when she came back, her heels were stuffed into her purse, feet blistered. I didn't ask why. I just checked the spa account. Another Thursday, another rental. I realized I wasn't hurt anymore. I wasn't sad. I was detached, clinical, curious, like a man performing an autopsy on his own marriage to understand the cause of death. It wasn't passion. It wasn't lust. It was neglect, narcissism, the kind of selfishness that rots slowly while pretending to bloom. She still smiled at me like everything was fine, still posted happy pictures of our family life on her curated social media, still tagged me in quotes about love and longevity. I started liking every single one, commenting, even, "Beautiful as always. So lucky to have you." I gave her all the rope she needed to hang herself, and she took it gladly, spinning her own noose with every lie she thought I swallowed. She didn't realize yet that I wasn't her husband anymore. I was the ghost in the room, the shadow behind her screen, the quiet man with a plan that would end her illusions with surgical precision. And when the time came, I wouldn't shout. I wouldn't cry. I would simply reveal the truth she'd handed me piece by piece. It happened at her company's quarterly networking mixer, one of those pretentious rooftop events filled with fake laughter, overpriced cocktails, and desperate men in poorly tailored suits trying to talk startups and synergy. She had invited me out of formality, the way you invite a plant to a dinner party, just to make it look lived in. I accepted with a smile that meant something entirely different now. I wore the same suit she once told me made me look like a CEO, even though I never was. She looked stunning, red dress, hair curled, eyes alive with that same energy I had once mistaken for love. She moved through the crowd like she owned it, laughing too hard at someone's joke, hand brushing a little too low on a colleague's arm. I kept my distance, blending in, watching her perform. And then, right on cue, he arrived. Jay, tall, athletic, a little too smooth for a guy who claimed to work in logistics. I knew his name, his face, his schedule. I knew the hotel room they used, the order she liked her wine in, the words she whispered to him, thanks to a mic I had slipped into the charm bracelet I gave her last Christmas, the one she wore religiously. It was all real. No more speculation. No more doubt. I let her float through the evening, confident and carefree, until I gave the signal. The projector behind the DJ booth flickered once, twice, then began playing a silent video loop. At first, people thought it was part of the event, an abstract promotional clip. But as the images became clearer, the laughter died. The screen showed two people in a dimly lit hotel room. Her red heels on the floor, his shirt on the chair, their silhouettes kissing in front of a mirror, her bracelet glinting like a confession. For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of ice clinking in untouched glasses. She froze mid-sentence, her glass raised, eyes fixed on the screen as if her brain was still trying to convince her it wasn't her. I walked over, slow, calm, quiet. I reached her just as the footage looped back to the beginning. She turned to me, wide-eyed, and whispered, "It's not what you think." I didn't answer. I just looked at her, unblinking. She reached for my hand, but I stepped back. "We were just talking," she said louder, as people started turning their heads. "That video, it's out of context." I tilted my head, the way you might look at a painting that didn't match the wall it hung on. "It was a mistake," she hissed, the panic finally cracking her voice. One time. It meant nothing. I watched her collapse through phases, one excuse bleeding into the next like a desperate actor forgetting her lines. Then came the pivot. "You never paid attention to me." I felt invisible. "You're always so cold. You think everything is a checklist, a schedule." I let her speak. Every word dug her deeper. She thought she was regaining ground, that if she screamed loud enough she could rewrite the script. Then she smirked, an ugly, defiant smirk that cracked the mask she used to wear so well. "You planned this, didn't you?" She sneered, like it was a victory. "You think this makes you clever? You think you're some mastermind? You're pathetic. You're a coward who couldn't keep his wife." I let her finish. Then I leaned in, voice soft enough to draw silence from the entire rooftop. "No," I said. "I'm the man who let you bury yourself in front of your entire world. I didn't need to raise my voice. You did that all by yourself." She flinched. Just once. Barely noticeable. But I saw it, the exact moment the confidence drained from her bones and was replaced by something far more honest. Fear. Not fear of me. Fear of what would come next. Fear of what her coworkers now whispered. Fear of her reputation crumbling like wet paper. I pulled the bracelet from my pocket, the one with the mic, still recording. I placed it gently in her palm. "Keep it," I said. "Souvenir of your growth." And I stepped back, letting the space between us stretch until it hurt her more than any insult ever could. I didn't walk away. Not yet. I stood there, as the air thickened with judgment and betrayal, as her lover slipped away into the crowd like a ghost, as her boss looked at her like a problem HR would soon solve. I let her stand in the wreckage of her own making, surrounded by the people she once fooled, the lies she once wore like perfume now curdling in the heat of exposure. And I waited, perfectly still, as the silence swallowed us whole. She came home the next day like a hurricane trying to act like a breeze, slamming the door, tossing her keys on the counter with theatrical force, hoping the noise would rattle me, spark something, make me react. I didn't even look up from the book I was reading. She stood there for a second, breathing heavy, waiting for the fight she thought she deserved. When it didn't come, she launched into the first wave, denial's last gasp. "You humiliated me," she spat, voice sharp, eyes glossy. "In front of everyone. That wasn't justice. That was abuse." I flipped the page. "You made a spectacle of my worst moment," she continued, pacing like a caged animal. "How could you do that to someone you once loved?" I closed the book, set it gently on the table, looked her dead in the eyes. "I didn't humiliate you. I gave you the stage." She faltered for half a second, like the air had been sucked out of her lungs. Then the gears shifted. Guilt. She sank onto the armrest, softer now, trying to look wounded. I was lost. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. You're not innocent either, you know. You ignored me for years. You made me feel invisible." I nodded slowly, like I was listening to a child lie through her teeth about a broken vase. Invisible people don't orchestrate hotel room sessions like weekly meetings. Her lip twitched. She tried again. "You smothered me. Always needing everything perfect, everything scheduled. You wanted a robot, not a wife." I leaned forward just slightly. "I wanted a partner. You wanted an audience." That one cut. Deep. Her posture stiffened, and the real her started to leak through. Mean, volatile, vindictive. "You were boring," she hissed, eyes narrowing. "Predictable. Vanilla. You didn't challenge me. You just existed. Like furniture." I smiled, cold, humorless. "Yet you kept lying to it. Kissing it. Sleeping next to it. For years. So tell me, what does that make you?" Her mouth opened, then shut. No words. Just the sound of her swallowing her own poison. Then the mask came off completely. She stood up, towering over me now, face contorted. "This wouldn't have happened if you were a real man. A real man would have satisfied me. A real man would have fought for me." I stood up slowly, not to intimidate, not to threaten, just to remind her that I could look her in the eyes and not flinch. A real woman wouldn't need a secret life to feel alive. Her face cracked then, something inside her breaking under the weight of knowing I wasn't playing the game anymore. There were no counters to my moves. No hooks to pull me back in. I watched her spiral through the stages like a drowning woman refusing the rope. "I gave you everything," she shouted. "I built this life." I tilted my head. "You built a mask. I just stopped pretending it was your face." She stormed into the kitchen, slammed a cabinet, came back with shaking hands. "So what now?" she asked, desperate. "You just walk around like the victim? Like some cold, perfect puppet master?" I shook my head. "No. I just don't care anymore." That silence, after that sentence, was louder than all her screaming combined. She stood there, trembling, trying to summon more venom, more excuses, more ways to pull me into the chaos. But there was nothing left in her arsenal that could touch me. She threw words like knives, hoping one would land. "You're emotionally dead. You never loved me. You're a monster in a suit." But I just stared, unmoved, and every second I didn't respond drove her deeper into panic. Because she wasn't used to this version of me. The one who didn't need her. The one who didn't bleed. The one who could watch her fall apart and feel nothing but the quiet satisfaction of gravity doing its job. She started crying then. Big, dramatic sobs, the kind that used to work when she forgot our anniversary or lied about expenses. I watched her cry like I was observing rainfall through glass. Distant. Calm. Unaffected. "You think this is easy for me?" she wailed. "I made a mistake, but I still have feelings. Don't I matter at all?" I finally stepped past her, walked to the door, paused just long enough to say what would be the final nail in the coffin. "You mattered. Until you decided I didn't." And then I walked away, leaving her standing there in a storm of her own creation, surrounded by the shattered remains of the person she pretended to be. She thought silence meant surrender. That because I didn't scream or beg or fall to pieces, she still had time to spin this, manipulate it, control the story. But silence is a dangerous thing when it belongs to someone who thinks in moves and maps, not feelings. She didn't know I'd already started. The day after the rooftop exposure, while she scrambled through damage control with her coworkers, I was in a bank office rerouting every joint account into a secure trust in my name. I had the legal paperwork pre-drafted, waiting in a folder marked insurance. I transferred utilities, shut down shared cards. She wouldn't feel it right away. She'd still swipe at cafes, still fuel her car, still walk through the house as if it belonged to her. But soon, those lights would flicker. Those statements would vanish. And she'd realize the ground had already been pulled out from under her. I changed the locks, not immediately, but just late enough that she wouldn't expect it. One night, she came home from a walk, found herself standing on the porch punching buttons that no longer worked. I let her call me. I let it go to voicemail. Twice. When I finally picked up, I just said, "New boundaries," and hung up. I filed for divorce under irreconcilable differences, attaching the full packet of digital evidence, timestamped photos, audio recordings, bank logs, calendar inconsistencies. My lawyer didn't ask questions. He just nodded and said, "This is airtight." I didn't want war. I wanted efficiency. Precision. The kind of takedown you don't see coming until it's already over. I listed the car in her name for sale. Turns out it wasn't in her name at all. It was under mine, as were most things. I sold it. Had it picked up while she was at work. Left a note on the empty driveway. "Don't worry, I kept the receipt." I had already removed myself from her social media weeks prior, deleted our photos, untagged myself from everything. But I didn't block her. No, I let her watch. Let her scroll through the silence. I started posting curated moments with my son, trips, breakfasts, projects, each one subtly contrasting the family she destroyed. Not fake. Just real. Without her. I mailed physical photo albums to her parents, lovely books, carefully put together, pages detailing family holidays, birthdays, anniversaries, all captioned with dates that overlapped with her affair. No comments. No accusations. Just timestamps and truth. Her father sent me a message that night. "I'm sorry. You didn't deserve this." Her mother didn't respond at all. But I knew from a friend that she canceled a trip they'd planned together. That she wasn't returning her calls. I sent a short, polite email to her HR department, flagging an ethics concern involving a personal relationship with a vendor currently under contract. No dramatics. No names. Just attached screenshots of her and Jay exchanging hotel confirmations from her work email. I didn't need them to fire her. I just needed the whispers to start. I set up a new custody arrangement request, documented how many nights she was absent from our child's life. Photos. GPS logs. Nights our son asked where she was, and I answered, "Busy." I didn't need to lie. The truth was more than enough. I called in one more favor, an old college friend who ran a small podcast about personal accountability and betrayal recovery. I gave him the story. Not names. Just the structure. It went viral in a week. She recognized the details. Everyone else just called it powerful. She sent texts at 3 a.m., some pleading, some furious, some delusional. "You're ruining me. We can still fix this. You'll never find anyone like me." I didn't reply. That was the point. Every move I made was silent. Surgical. She screamed into a void that didn't echo back. The house was mine now. The documents were filed. The world she built on lies was crumbling brick by brick, and every one of those bricks had her name etched into it. She still showed up to events for appearances, still tried to smile through the judgment. But people had seen the footage, heard the whispers. Not one of them could unsee the truth. She thought I would burn the whole thing down in a fit of fury. But I didn't need fire. I just turned off the lights, locked the doors, and walked away with everything while she fumbled in the dark. It happened at her nephew's birthday party, of all places, some quiet suburban Saturday filled with streamers, inflatable castles, and fake smiles glued on like discount party favors. Her whole family was there. The ones who once called me son, the ones who believed every glowing word she ever posted about our perfect love. She walked in with practiced ease, makeup flawless, hair curled, sunglasses pushed up like a shield. She wore the red dress again, the same one from the rooftop, as if defiance could hide decay. But the room was colder now. Conversations dipped when she approached. Her sister gave a tight smile, then turned her back mid-sentence. Her father, who always hugged her first, kept his hands folded behind his back. She noticed. I saw it. The slight confusion in her eyes, the twitch in her jaw. She walked toward me anyway, that fake confidence bouncing in her step, her voice just a touch too loud. There he is, she said, like nothing had happened, like we were still pretending for the sake of peace. I didn't respond. Just nodded once, slow and deliberate, and kept my gaze steady. That was enough. Her brother came over with his phone, handed it to me without a word, eyes flicking toward her for half a second. On the screen, the group chat. Their cousins, her aunts, a screenshot of the footage from the hotel, and a message that simply read, "This is what she did to him." It had been circulating for days. The family had seen it. She hadn't. Not until now. Her mother approached next, not to hug her, but to take her hand gently, quietly say, "Why didn't you just tell us the truth?" Her voice broke then. The armor cracked. It was complicated, she mumbled, suddenly childlike, suddenly unsure of her footing. He twisted everything. But no one was listening anymore. Her aunt turned away. Her cousins didn't look up from their phones. Her sister's kid didn't run to her. He ran to me, wrapped his arms around my waist and said, "Uncle, can we play cars later?" I smiled down at him. Of course. She watched that moment like it hurt her bones. Then she saw him, Jay, standing by the driveway, talking to someone else, arms crossed, sunglasses on, distant. She rushed toward him like a lifeline, calling his name too loud, too desperate. He barely turned. She touched his arm. He shook her off. Quiet words passed between them, and I couldn't hear them, but I didn't need to. I saw his hand gesture, dismissive, final. She reached for him again. He stepped back. She said something sharp, and he laughed, short and bitter, before walking away without even a glance behind him. Her head turned slowly, scanning the yard, realizing everyone was watching. No one was stepping in. No one was coming to her rescue. She tried to laugh. "This is insane, right?" she said to no one in particular. "This is all so dramatic." But her voice cracked on the last word. A silence followed that felt like judgment itself. I watched her spin in place, like a child lost in a store, realizing the exit is gone and no one's coming to find her. Her eyes finally landed back on me. And that's when the last piece of her broke. Because I hadn't moved, hadn't spoken, hadn't raised a single word. Just stood there, watching her unravel in real time, as her family turned away one by one, as the weight of what she'd done caught up with the speed of her lies. I didn't need revenge at that moment. I didn't need applause or validation. I just needed her to feel what I felt the day I stood in our hallway and watched her show her real self to another man through a phone screen. And now, she did. That look on her face, it wasn't pain. It was recognition. She knew she'd lost. Not the marriage. Not the comfort. But the illusion. The image she spent years building with filters and rehearsed affection. Gone. She was exposed now, raw and alone, surrounded by the ghosts of her own choices. I stayed. I watched her crumble. And in that silence between us, filled with everything we never said, she understood the one truth that would haunt her longer than any punishment I could deliver. I didn't need to destroy her. She did it for me. It happened at her parents' anniversary party. A formal dinner held in a modest but elegant hall packed with family, friends, co-workers, people who'd known us for years, people who still believed the fairy tale version of her we used to sell. She was dressed like nothing had happened, makeup flawless, smile glued in place, pretending the earth beneath her hadn't cracked. I arrived 15 minutes late, intentionally. The murmurs started the second I walked in. Her mother looked down at her plate. Her father stiffened. She turned to me, her expression freezing like a mask cracking mid-smile. I walked toward the table, quiet, composed, then handed her an envelope. "You forgot this," I said. "It's the copy of the hotel receipt you claimed didn't exist." Her face twisted instantly. "Why are you doing this here?" she hissed, low but urgent. "This is not the place." "You're right." I replied, just loud enough for the next table to hear. The place for betrayal is apparently room 412 on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Gasps spread like wildfire. She stood abruptly, knocking her chair back. You're disgusting. This is harassment. I stepped forward. You had no issue dragging my name through mud in your little side story to him, did you? Telling him I was cold, dull, obsessed with schedules, while using my credit card to pay for your affair motel. Her friend Sandra rose from another table, visibly shaken. Is this true? She asked. Did you really? My wife turned to her like a cornered animal. Oh, come on. You think he's innocent? He's been spying on me, recording me, invading my privacy. Her father stood up slowly. Is that true? I looked him in the eyes. Yes. And what I found was the truth. Your daughter has been lying to every person in this room for over a year. The sweet little marriage she brags about on Instagram? Fiction. The business trips? The couples therapy she said I refused to try? She never even booked a session. Her voice cracked as she tried to speak. You manipulated me. You made me feel worthless. And now you want to play the victim? I stepped closer, not shouting, just commanding. No. I want to play the part of the man who gave you everything. Stability. A family. A home. And you spat in it while smiling for Christmas cards. She threw her glass. It hit the floor, shattering. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Someone started filming. I heard the click of a phone camera being raised. You're emotionally abusive, she screamed, her voice rising to hysteria. You tried to control me, and when you couldn't, you turned everyone against me. I pointed toward the projection screen behind the head table, where her father had planned to play a montage of family photos. Then explained the footage I gave your dad, of you and your logistics partner kissing in a parking lot while our son was at home asking where his mother was. Is that emotional abuse? Or just abandonment dressed in red lipstick? She lunged at me, hands clenched, but her brother stepped between us. Stop, he said. You're embarrassing yourself. She spun around, pointing wildly. You're all enjoying this, aren't you? Watching me fall apart like some entertainment. He's not perfect. He's a manipulative, heartless freak who couldn't satisfy me in bed, who turned into a robot after we had a kid. I leaned in, voice low but lethal. Then why did you keep coming home every night? Why did you keep lying to me, touching me, calling me babe, while texting another man to sneak in 10 minutes of heaven? Her knees buckled. Someone offered her a chair, but she waved them off, staggering back like I'd physically hit her. Her mom stood, voice trembling. Sweetheart, is this true? She tried to speak. No words came. Only air. And silence. I turned to the crowd, calm and centered. I came here to return a document. But I won't lie, this felt right. This needed to happen. Because truth doesn't need volume. It just needs light. I buttoned my jacket, turned to leave. As I passed her, she clutched my arm one last time, whispering through gritted teeth, You've ruined me. I looked her dead in the eye. No, you did that all by yourself. I just stopped covering for you. Then I walked out, through the stunned silence and whispering mouths, every eye on her. And for the first time, she didn't look like a woman in control. She looked like a mask that finally broke. 3 months after the last confrontation, she was no longer the woman who walked into rooms expecting applause. She lost her job a week after the anniversary party. Official reason was a breach of professional ethics, but everyone knew what really happened. Her coworkers stopped returning her messages. The HR department denied her severance. The vendor she slept with vanished the moment the light hit him, blocked her on everything, changed jobs, left her dangling in digital silence. Her parents, once the loyal defenders of their daughter's imagined perfection, cut all ties after the truth became impossible to spin. Her mother changed her number. Her father sent me an email, brief, formal, apologetic. I should have seen it. Thank you for protecting our grandson. That was it. Her sister refused to let her see the nieces. Her friends, what few she had left, either unfollowed her or ghosted her entirely. She became a pariah in her own neighborhood, the woman whose smile meant nothing now. People crossed the street when they saw her. The same mom she used to gossip with at school pickup stared straight ahead, lips tight. Her world shrank fast. She moved out of state, no goodbye, no announcement, just gone. A friend of a friend told me she was renting a basement apartment in some smaller town, working at a candle shop owned by an older woman who didn't know her past. No more conferences. No more posts about elevating your mindset. She traded ambition for anonymity, swapped lipstick for shame. Then the messages started. The first was long pages of apologies, twisted memories repackaged as love, accusations laced with desperation. You were always the one. I didn't know how to handle happiness. I lost myself, and I'm trying to find my way back. I didn't reply. The next one came a week later. I still love you. I stared at it for a long moment, then wrote back, strange. I don't even remember your name anymore. And I meant it. Because what remained of her wasn't the woman I married. She was just a ghost shaped like a consequence. The calls started next. Blocked numbers. Unmarked voicemails. At first, she tried guilt. Do you even care what this is doing to me? Then she tried nostalgia. Remember when we used to watch storms from the porch? Then she tried the last weapon she had, tears. Please. Please. I have nothing left. One night, she showed up at the house. Same porch where we used to drink coffee, where she used to kiss my forehead on Sunday mornings. She stood there in the rain, soaking, arms folded, shaking not from cold, but from the unbearable weight of being no one to someone who used to be her everything. My son was asleep. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. She looked up, face gaunt, mascara washed away, lips trembling. Can we talk? She asked. I didn't move. Just 5 minutes. I don't want to fight. Her voice was small, nothing like the sharp-edged woman who once said I wasn't man enough. You said we were forever, she whispered. You said you'd never leave. I stared at her and finally said, I said a lot of things. Before I knew who you really were. She reached for my hand, and I pulled it back before she could touch it. That was the final nail. She broke right there, knees giving out, sobbing in a puddle of her own making. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was begging for identity, for someone to still see her as something more than the wreckage of her own decisions. But I couldn't give her that. I didn't hate her. I felt nothing. Just the relief of clarity. I turned, stepped back inside, and said the only thing she'd remember for the rest of her life. You lost me the moment you chose him. I shut the door, locked it, and never opened it again. And that, right there, was the end. Thank you for listening to my story. It's been a ride reliving it with you. Where are you from, and did you enjoy the story?